The Herman Miller Embody is one of the few chairs that I would rank as S tier when it comes to back support. I really like the curve, the flexibility is unmatched, and I like that it is super skinny, giving me a ton of range of movement.
I think if the Herman Miller Embody chair fit me a little bit better in the backrest, I'd probably rank it as high as an S tier, but for me, it rolls my shoulders over. I gotta go C tier.
Now, I felt a little bit of what Greg is talking about, but I found if I tinker with the adjustments, I can get it to fit pretty well. I love the movement in the backrest and the flexibility, so this is going to be an A for me. That averages out to an A.
I think the Titan Evo is just not flexible in the backrest. There's no real contour to it. I'm going D tier only because it's usable.
Yeah, it's really just a big flat surface, and it's just really hard. This is also a D for me.
Yeah, I feel the same way, except for I really can't use the chair just because I feel so locked into place. It just makes my back so uncomfortable. So I'm at F tier with this, but we are at a D overall.
So the Ameap is the leap seat on an Ameap frame. Now, I love the Ameap chair as a whole, and I do really like the backrest, has a little flexibility, so this is an A for me.
I think it's an A tier chair as well for the back support. I find it really comfortable. If it was a little bit more flexible like the Leap, I'd be at S tier.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much spot on. I think for me, if it was a little bit more flexible and it had a little more aggressive lumbar, because I do prefer that, I'd go S tier, but I'm going to go A. It's A overall.
I think that the Knoll Regeneration is one of the most comfortable chairs that's not talked about, and that's especially because of the back. I like the rubber-like feel. I think the contour is amazing. I'm at an A tier for this.
Yeah, I think it's oddly good, but I just wish it had a little bit more support. I do love the flexibility, and like Ryan said, it's got this rubbery feel that's nice and soft. I'm going to go B tier.
Yeah, I really like polyback chairs. You'll find that as we go through this whole list. This is an A for me. It's got a nice curve to it, so this averages out to an A.
The original Aeron Classic has a nice, consistent backrest. I think it's got good lumbar, and when you sit in it with good posture, I think it's pretty comfortable. But unfortunately, it's just not quite flexible enough for me. I'm going B tier.
So the classic Aeron definitely has some problems, but I do really like the backrest. Has a nice suspended feeling, kind of lends to the really good recline. It's an A.
I don't like the lumbar on the classic chair, but if you remove it, I find it to be pretty comfortable. It's supportive. You sink into it nicely. If it had more flexibility, I'd be higher, but I'm still at a B for this, and we're at a B overall.
The Serta chair is common of what you're going to find at a lot of big box stores with these bigger cushions. Definitely not something that I like to see in an ergonomic chair. This is a D.
It's going to feel comfortable because it's poofy and pillowy, but it's not going to offer any support. I'm at a D tier.
It is a fluffy pillow with decent support that will go flat over time 100%. It's D for me and D overall.
The Ticova is my go-to pick for a cheap office chair, and one of the reasons is that back. It's flexible, offers good support, but it's still mid-range. I'm going to give it a C tier.
Yeah, I think that Ryan's got it pretty spot on. I do like the lumbar support because it's noticeable, and for the price point, it's a good value, but it's really nothing better than a C tier.
I think the backrest is the best part of the Ticova chair. It has better quality materials than you'd expect for that price point for sure. C's all across.
Robert's kitchen chair has literally no back support, but it does have a backrest. Still F tier.
I mean, I spend a good amount of time in this chair, but it's only like, 45 minutes a day and it's fine. F tier.
I mean, it really doesn't do much more than literally just hold your back. So we're going to be at an F tier across the board on this one.
Really like the backrest on the Steelcase gesture. Has a more of a contoured feeling than some of the other Steelcase chairs, but it does still allow for some movement. So this is a low A for me.
I like some things about the gestures back. The lumbar is good. I think it's soft, but it's way too floppy for me, if that makes sense. It doesn't have enough resistance, and so I'm going to be at a B tier for this one.
If you need a nice tall backrest, this is definitely it. From Steelcase, it's going to be the tallest backrest. I just don't think it has the best support, and I like really aggressive support. Even if you get the height adjustable lumbar, it still doesn't do a lot. I'm going to go B tier. It's going to be B overall.
I think the Haworth Vera is a decent chair, but I think the backrest is one of the worst aspects, mainly because I just sink right through the mesh, and I can really feel the frame on my shoulders. So unfortunately, I'm going to be at a C tier for this one.
I wish that the backrest had just a little bit more aggressive lumbar support. It's kind of middle of the road, maybe a little bit better. I'm going B tier.
To me, the Vera is one of these chairs where if you sit perfectly in it, it's very comfortable, but I find when I'm reclining or leaning back too far, I do feel the top of the frame, like Ryan said. So this is a B for me. It's going to average out to a low B.
The Sofi chair is just something that I really can't fall in love with, mostly because it's so dang rigid. The backrest is exactly that. There's no flex to it. I don't like it much. I'm going D tier.
Yeah, I find that the chair is just too narrow for me. My back feels too wide to really fit in the chair, so I'm hitting the side of the frame. Could be worse, though. It's still a C for me.
Yeah, I don't really love the Sofi or hate it. The lumbar is decent. This frame is pretty firm. The mesh is decently soft, so it's middle of the road. I'm going to be at a C tier for this. C tier overall.
The OM Yes chair has a nice wide backrest, and I like how it has the height adjustments. You can really get it to fit you. Unfortunately, I wish it had a little more flex, so I'm going to keep it at a B.
Yeah, I think the backrest on the S is decent, but the lumbar support is really lacking, and that's coming from someone that doesn't love aggressive lumbar. And I don't like the rattling in the backrest because of the components. I'm at a C tier.
I think that the backrest on the Yes is definitely a comfortable one for me, but like Ryan said, not a very aggressive lumbar, and the back isn't as flexible as it could be. But overall, for the price, I think it's pretty good. B tier, B overall.
The Jarv from IKEA is definitely a chair that we don't love, not super comfortable. I don't like the backrest. I'm at a D tier for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Jarv is awful, so I'm going F tier.
I mean, the backrest is basically mesh wrapped around 2 bars, worse than my kitchen chair, F tier. This is a F overall.
The Haworth Soji chair has a nice tall backrest. I don't have any issues with the hard plastic frame hitting my back. I just wish that it was a little more flexible and the lumbar support was more aggressive. B tier.
For a chair that doesn't look very large, it does have that nice tall backrest. I do find I sometimes hit the sides of the frames, so it's a B tier.
Yeah, I'm right there with these guys. It's kind of like the very back for me, except for I don't sink in and feel the frame, so I'll actually be at a B tier for this instead of a C. B tier overall.
With the Secret Lab Neue chair, it has super firm lumbar, and personally, I like firm lumbar, but it's too firm for me. It's going to be a C.
Yeah, I agree with Robert. I really dislike the lumbar. It kind of just pokes me in the back. It doesn't have much flexibility, and the mesh is pretty coarse, so I'm going to be at a C tier for this as well.
I think it took a while for me to get to Neue this chair, but honestly, it's got good lumbar, and I really like it in the turbo mode, so that's where it gets super aggressive. I'm going B tier, but it's C overall.
The Nutri 8000 chair has a nice thick padded backrest, and the height adjustment makes sure that you can put it in the right spot, but it's really firm for me, and I don't like that it's kind of concave. I'm going to be at a C tier.
I wish that the Neutral 8000 chair just had a little bit more flexibility in the backrest, and I'm not a huge fan of that inflatable lumbar, but overall, it's pretty comfortable. I'm going B tier.
The chair has nice padding all around, but for me, it's more the mech that has problems. I can never seem to get myself in the right position, so my back isn't real comfortable. B for me, B overall.
The Nightingale CXO is an interesting chair. I don't fit in it with the headrest, so if you remove the headrest, I actually think it's a pretty comfortable backrest, good lumbar support. I'm going B tier.
For me, the backrest is just too short. I always feel the frame way too much at the top of my back, so at 6'2", I'm going to have to give this a D.
The backrest fits me properly, and I think that it's pretty comfortable. I like the lumbar support, but it is pretty rigid, so I'm going to be at a B tier here, B overall.
The Mavix M9 has a really comfortable backrest. I love how the lumbar moves with you while you're moving in the chair. This is going to be a B+.
I really like the backrest on the Mavix. It doesn't have the flexibility of some other top-end chairs, but it does have really good lumbar support. The material is comfortable, and that independent back angle lets you get it all the way upright. I'm at A tier for this.
I've always liked this design on the backrest. It's very similar to the Ergohuman, except it has the back angle adjustment. I'm going A tier. It's going to be A overall.
The Herman Miller Cosm has my favorite mesh backrest. I really like almost everything about it. It just lacks a little bit of flexibility, but I really enjoy the hammock feel. A tier.
Yeah, it's definitely like floating on a hammock. I wish it had an independent lumbar system to really ramp up the lumbar support. I'm going A tier.
I'm a big fan of mesh chairs, and this is one of the top ones. Love that floating feeling. S tier from me. This averages out to a high A.
I really like the flexibility of the backrest on the new Steelcase Karman chair. Unfortunately, that lumbar support system feels like a bit of an afterthought. Just because of that, I'm going to go A tier.
The Karman is one of my favorite backrests in any chair. I like that it moves around with you. I agree with Greg, not a lot of lumbar, but I find there's enough built into the backrest. This is a S.
The Karman's going to be right there with the Cosm for me as one of my favorite mesh backrests, mainly because of the flexibility in that frame. I'm going to be at an A tier overall.
The Hon Ignition is not what I'd consider a premium chair, but it does give you some flexibility like a lot of the premium chairs do have. This is a B tier.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with everything that Robert said. Amazing flexibility, especially for the price point. B tier.
I pretty much agree with everything these guys said. I think it's got decent support too, so I'm going B tier. It's B overall.
The Eurotech Vera has one of the most simple back designs, but for me, it's one of the most comfortable without lumbar support, just that natural curve and mesh. I'm at an A tier.
Yeah, I mean, I think this one was very close to getting to S tier for me, but I got to go A.
My back just presses into the backrest of this chair just the right amount. Kind of like the Karman, I like the built-in curve to give you some lumbar support. A's all across.
I really like the pivoting backrest on the Humanscale World chair. I just wish it was a bit taller, but I'm still going to give it an A tier.
This is a major love-hate for me with this chair. I can't sit in the seat, but I love the backrest. This is an A.
For the most part, I think Humanscale does a great job with their backrest. I love how they provide great support without that added lumbar system. I'm at an A tier for this one. A's across the board.
I recently spent more time in the Zody Luxe chair, and I find I really like the flexibility in the backrest. Even though it's a bit more firm, I like the cradled feeling it gives you. A-.
Unfortunately, the Zody Luxe has my least favorite backrest from Haworth. I just think that it's way too stiff for me, and I don't feel any lumbar support. C tier.
I agree with everything that Ryan said. I'm going to go C tier here. It's going to be C overall.
I think the Newtral chair's back has a cool concept with that extreme lumbar support, but personally, I'm not a fan of a system like that. I'm going to be at a C tier.
The Newtral chair definitely has the most aggressive lumbar that I've ever tried in a chair. Pretty good. I'm going to go B tier.
Even with the lumbar support totally collapsed, I still felt it was almost too much. So that's a C for me, C overall.
I don't think there's a better backrest in the business than the Steelcase Leap chair. It's got a ton of lumbar support if you want it. It's super flexible. I'm going S tier.
So not many chairs offer the amount of flexibility in the Leap backrest, which I love. Also super customizable lumbar. This is a S tier.
Yeah, I'm going to be right there with these guys. Personally, I actually like to take the lumbar out, and I think it's the most comfortable backrest out there. I'm going to be at an S tier for this one. S's across the board.
Unfortunately, the Herman Miller Sayl just has too short of a backrest for me. I wish they had different sizes for this chair. It's going to be a C.
The Sayl's back does fit me, and I find it to be pretty comfortable. I like the rubber-like feel, and it has some flexibility to it. Not a ton of lumbar support, so I'm going to be at a B tier for this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more I can say here. I mean, I think that it just doesn't fit me like Robert, so I'm going C tier. It's going to be C overall.
The Clatina Millette is another good chair for the price, and it offers decent back support, but I have to take the lumbar system out completely in order to use it. I'm going to be at a C tier for this one.
I think this backrest is a little awkward, especially in the recline, and like Ryan said, you got to remove that lumbar. It's pretty much worthless. Overall, though, just sort of middle of the road, C tier.
Yeah, fortunately, the lumbar is super easy to just take out. I find I have to kind of stay in the middle of this chair, otherwise it gets uncomfortable. It's a C for me, C overall.
I really like the lumbar support on the Humanscale Freedom, and I like how that backrest sort of pivots and moves with you. This is an A tier for me.
Yeah, the backrest of the Freedom really lets you recline and continue working, and even when you're sitting upright, the lumbar just hits me just perfectly. This is an A tier.
If we're looking at just the backrest alone, I'd probably be at a higher rating just because I like the curve and it has a good amount of foam. But when you throw the headrest in there, it's unusable for me. So I'm going to be at a D tier, B tier overall though.
The VATSET balance is a little bit harder to rank. Most of your weight is transferred forward, but the backrest is there when you need it. If we consider what the backrest is for, it's a C tier.
Yeah, I just don't think that the Balance backrest has much to offer. Not a lot of foam in there. It's not very comfortable. And truly, I like using the chair without the backrest more than with the backrest. So I'm going to be at an F tier for this.
Honestly, I just still don't get this chair. It's not for me. I'm going F tier with the C in there, though. We're F+.
The Eurotech IOO is a lot like the Mavix M9, but it doesn't have that independent adjustment to get you to that fully upright position if you want it. So I'm going to be at a B tier for this.
I think this backrest offers really good lower support. Unfortunately, the upper portion of the backrest is just a little bit too far away, so I got to knock it down a little bit. I'm going to go B tier.
I do like the high and wide backrest, and I love how that lumbar moves with you, flexes as you're moving in the chair. I just don't love the mesh material. This is a B all across.
The IKEA Marcus has terrible lumbar support. It's just a random pad in a random spot that fits 3 people. I'm going F tier.
Yeah, the lumbar just feels like a mistake. It just feels like something's in the wrong place. I do think it's a little better than the Jarvfjallet, so this is a D.
Yeah, same thing as these guys. The lumbar kind of ruins it for me, but it is usable, and I do kind of like the high back with the headrest. So I'm going to be at a D tier for this, D overall.
With the Steelcase Think chair, I do like the flexibility in the backrest, but I find I sometimes hit the top of the frame, so this is going to be a B for me.
I feel the same thing, and then sometimes I can also feel the horizontal bars that are used to support the backrest, so I'm going to be at a B tier as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's great, but it's definitely better than average, so I'm going to go B tier, B overall.
The Herman Miller Vantum is one of their lower priced chairs, and you can definitely feel that in the build, but I do like the backrest, and the lumbar support is pretty unique, so I'm going to be at a B tier for this.
I think the Vantum's backrest is average to below average. For that reason, I'm going to go C tier.
Yeah, it does have some flexibility and some adjustments, but to me, I always just feel like I'm sitting in a child's chair. It has to be a C for me, C overall.
I think the Hag Sofi is a pretty interesting chair, but when it comes to the backrest and what a backrest is supposed to do, I think it's awful. I'm going to go F tier.
The Capisco is kind of my go-to chair if I want to change up my positions. I do like how that backrest can be kind of used as like a chest rest, sitting backwards, so this is going to be a B.
Yeah, the Capisco is tough just because it's such a different chair. The backrest doesn't do what all the other chairs in the list are designed to do, but it is decent for what it's supposed to do, so I'm not at an F. I'll be at a D for this and a D overall.
The Haworth Fern has some excellent flexibility. I really like the quilted back on it. I prefer that over the mesh. S tier.
Yeah, I think Robert hit the nail on the head. I really love the Fern's backrest with that digital knit. Remove the lumbar, remove the headrest. This is S tier easy.
I really enjoy the Fern chair with the lumbar support. It's super aggressive, and like everybody else said, that backrest is incredibly flexible. I'm going S tier. It's S tier overall.
The Ergohuman Tempur-Pedic has a decent backrest, but I don't love the mesh material, and it can't get fully upright, so I'm going to be at a B tier for this.
This is that classic Ergohuman back. I really love the lumbar, but I wish the upper backrest got a little closer, so I'm going B tier.
Yeah, I agree. I do really like the strong and flexible lumbar support. This is going to be a B for me. Averages out to a B.
I think the Humanscale Liberty has such a comfortable backrest. I really enjoy that pivoting function that they have on pretty much all those Humanscale chairs that really gets that lower lumbar into your lower part of your back. I'm going A tier.
I really like the quality of the mesh on this chair too. It looks and feels great, and my back just pushes into the chair just the right amount. This is an A.
Yeah, this is my favorite Humanscale backrest. It's actually a little bit taller than the Different chairs, which is a nice advantage there. If it had some more flexibility in the frame, I'd be at an S tier for this, but I'm going to be at an A as well, A across the board.
With the branch task chair, I like how the backrest is tall and wide. It keeps my back away from the frame. This is going to be a low B.
I think the branch task's back is a definition of the middle-of-the-road type of chair. Decent, offers some support, but I wish it could be improved in the flexibility in the lumbar. I'm going to be at a C tier.
Yeah, I don't think it's uncomfortable, but I don't think it's super comfortable. It's just pretty much adequate. I'm going C tier, C overall.
I think the Series 1 is the most uncomfortable chair from Steelcase. I've said this a million times. It doesn't even feel like a Steelcase chair. Frame is hard. I can feel the horizontal bars. D tier.
Yeah, I think the back's just a little bit too short for me, and the lumbar support really doesn't do much. I'm going to go C tier.
Just like the Vantum was Herman Miller's child's chair, I kind of feel like that's Steelcase's child's chair as a Series 1. I had a C down. I'm changing it to a D overall.
The Steelcase Leap Lounge backrest is a little bit different than the traditional Leap chair, and so for that reason, I got to knock it down a notch. It's going to be A tier.
Personally, I actually don't like using the headrest or the lumbar support, but without those, I really like the comfort of this backrest. It's going to be an A.
Yeah, you're basically swapping out that flexibility in the standard Leap for some extra poof in the Leap Lounge. Still a good, comfortable chair, but it can't get to S tier for me. I'm at an A for this one, A overall.
The backrest on the BTOD IKEA is nice and tall, wide. I recommended this to a friend who's 6'4" and he loves the chair. It's going to be a B+.
Yeah, that's kind of the problem with the Akira is that it is big and it is tall. It doesn't really fit me that great, and I don't love the lumbar support or the hard frame, so unfortunately I'm going to be at a C tier for this.
Yeah, this one fits me really well. I like the lumbar support on it, and I think it's got that nice tall backrest like they mentioned. I'm going B tier, but because this is our product, F tier overall.
The Verus is one of the cheapest chairs in Herman Miller's lineup, but I actually really like the backrest, especially for the price of the chair. It's got decent lumbar support, and I like the mesh material. I'm at a B tier for this.
For me, this one's just sort of middle of the road. I'm going to go C tier.
Yeah, I find the backrest supportive, and I don't have any frame issues, but there's nothing I really love about it. It's a C for me. It averages out to a high C.
The Sihu backrest is much like the seat. It really feels like a rock. It's way too firm, and the lumbar support jabs you in the back. I'm going D tier.
Yeah, like Greg said, the CU is just hard everywhere. It's just not comfortable. This is a D tier.
See who ranked this D tier? All of us. D's across the board.
The Razer Isker just has too many problems. It has such a hard backrest that you need the pillow, but then when you use the pillow, it pushes your head out too far. It's a D-.
Yeah, for me, this is going to be an easy F tier just because there's nothing usable about the back. Super firm. The bolsters are terrible. I applaud them for trying something with the lumbar, but they probably should have realized it was bad and scrapped it. F tier.
Yeah, I don't fit in this chair at all. It's too narrow, and that lumbar system is just crazy weird. I'm going F tier, F overall.
I think the Steelcase Ameap is the definition of an A tier chair. It does almost everything perfect, but just not quite all the way.
Yeah, if this thing was a little more flexible and it had a little more aggressive lumbar support, it would be S tier for me. No problem, but it's A.
It's easily the #1 most underrated chair. Has a really nice backrest, has some flexibility. This is A for all three of us.
The Staples Hyken backrest is incredibly uncomfortable like the rest of the chair. Extremely firm, rigid, and the mesh is low quality. I'm going F tier.
Yeah, just low quality materials all around on the Hyken. This has to be an F.
Yeah, same thing the guys said, but I will say for my size, I can use the backrest, so I'm going to be at a D tier instead of an F, but it's still going to be an F overall.
I love the pivoting backrest on the Humanscale Different Smart. Has really nice quality mesh, just like the Liberty chair. This is an A.
Yeah, I'm right there with Robert. I really love this backrest for the same reasons that I like the Liberty and the Different World. A tier for me.
This is without question my favorite backrest from Humanscale. I think it fits me just right, and I love that mesh, how it goes into my lower back with the pivoting function. These guys said they love it. They clearly don't because I'm the only one going S tier here, but it's A overall.
The Ergochair Pro just doesn't have anything that I like about the backrest, unfortunately. It's stiff, the mesh is coarse, and it doesn't provide a ton of support, so unfortunately I'm going to be at a D tier for this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's decent, but that lumbar system just jabs into your back. Overall, I just don't love this one, but you can use it, D tier.
I sink right through the mesh, feel the hard frame. If the Ameap is the most underrated chair, this is the most overrated chair. D's for all three of us.
The Herman Miller Mirra 2 is my favorite poly backrest. I think it's got great adjustments and really good lower lumbar support. B tier.
Yeah, the Mirra is a nice wide backrest, kind of lets you move around in the chair, even though it doesn't necessarily have flexibility. This is a B tier backrest.
Yeah, I like the Mirra 2 backrest as well. I think it has good support, and it does have a little bit of flexibility, but I don't love the poly back design, so it can't be A tier for me. I'm going to be at a B tier. All three of us are B tier as well.
The Steelcase Series 2 reminds me a little of the Haworth Zody Luxe. It has that contoured feeling, but still a little bit of flexibility. It's B tier.
Yeah, I don't love the Series 2's backrest just because it's a little bit firm for me, and the lumbar is very pronounced for my liking, so I'm going to be at a C tier for this chair.
I think the Series 2 chair is better than the Series 1. I do like that lower lumbar support. Like Ryan said, it's fairly aggressive, which I like, and the backrest just feels good with the upholstery we have on it. I'm going B tier. It's going to be B overall.
While I do think the Branch Verve is overpriced for what you're getting, I think the backrest is decent. That digital knit-like fabric is soft. I'm going to be at a C tier.
Yeah, I mean, this chair just doesn't fit me, so I can't really get that comfortable in it, but it's still usable. I'm going D tier.
Yeah, as always with this chair, I'm looking out for the big or tall guys. You got to stay away from this one. D tier for me averages out to a D.
The Sidez T50 is one of those chairs that you see in the picture and you think this thing is going to be absolutely perfect, but unfortunately the backrest just isn't that comfortable and the lumbar is sort of pokey in my back. I got to go D tier.
I agree with Greg. The lumbar was pretty hard. At least it does have a bit of adjustments. This is not a super comfortable backrest though. C tier.
Yeah, I actually don't mind this backrest, but I do agree that the lumbar support is a little uncomfortable. If it wasn't there, you could remove it. I'd probably be at a B or higher, but I'm going to be at a C tier for this, C overall.
The X-Chair X2 suffers from poor materials. I sink right through the mesh here, hit the hard frame. Reminds me of the Hyken. This is F tier.
I'm not going to be quite as harsh as Robert on this backrest. I don't love it, though, because I can feel the point where the lumbar meets the upper back, so not quite as comfortable for me as the Ergohuman. I'm going to be at a C tier.
I think that the backrest on the X2 chair is actually its best feature. It's much like the classic Ergohuman. For that reason, I'm going B tier. It's going to be C overall.
The Haworth Assure is going to be one of the most basic chairs on this list. The backrest doesn't do anything fancy, but it doesn't have anything on it that I hate. I'm going to be at a C tier.
Yeah, I can assure you this chair is not going to blow your mind. I'm going C tier.
So the top of the backrest frame kind of hits my upper back, so it's not the perfect chair for me, but I could still be comfortable in it. It's a C tier, C overall.
The Herman Miller Lino chair is an interesting one when you look at the backrest. I think it's a little bit too firm, and I really can't feel the lumbar. It's not uncomfortable, but it's not great, so I'm going to go C tier.
I don't necessarily love the Lino, but I do think the backrest is the best part of it. It's just a little small for me.
Yeah, the Lino chair is tough. I really like the lumbar. I really like the mesh on it, but the frame is small and it's really hard, so it's going to make contact with your back almost all the time. So I've got to be at a C tier for this. C's across the board.
I love the tall backrest on the OM Truly chair, and it has nice lumbar support. Personally, I like the polyback, but you can add a layer of fabric on this too. It's a high B.
I think the Truly is one of the most underrated chairs out there right now, especially because of the backrest. I think it's really comfortable, especially with that added layer. The lumbar adjustments are really nice. I'm at an A tier for this.
Yeah, it's got a pretty unique system in the lumbar that will increase or decrease it depending on your liking. I like it a lot. I'm going B tier here. It's going to be B overall.
I really love the backrest on the Haworth Zody. I went back and forth with this one for quite a while, whether it's S or A tier, ultimately landing on A tier just because it doesn't have quite that S-shaped curve that I look for in those top-end chairs.
Yeah, I think they definitely made an improvement with the second iteration of the Zody for the backrest. The first one was a little bit too lax in the mesh. This one's great. I'm going A tier.
Yeah, this is the chair at my desk right now. I've been sitting in it a lot. I really like it. I do prefer the more narrow back on the Fern, but this is still an A. A's all across.
I really like the Herman Miller Aeron Remastered backrest. I think it's good, comfortable support throughout the entire back, and it's especially good when you get into a full recline, which is one of the best features of the chair. I'm going A tier.
Yeah, the Aeron's backrest really lends to that suspended feeling, and I think if you get in the right seat size, the frame is not an issue on this chair. This is an A.
Yeah, I'm right there with these guys. I like the back on the remastered chair. I like it a little more than the classic just because I think the posture fit is an upgrade, and I like the mesh a little bit more. Can't get it to that S tier, though, because of the hard frame. I'm going to be at an A tier across the board.
The Lamia has the great Leap backrest with lots of flexibility, customizable lumbar. This is going to be an S tier.
Yeah, I agree with Robert. I like everything about the Leap's backrest, the lumbar, the flexibility, the foam, S tier.
Yeah, the Lamia has, without question, the most comfortable backrest for a wide range of people. Ryan doesn't like aggressive lumbar, so he takes the lumbar out. I like aggressive lumbar, and you can really crank it up. So this one's an easy S tier overall.